Ready?
Yes.
Hi everyone. Americans are fickle, gullible, and we know all that stuff as a whole, not individuals. We know all the time people get elected, and how did that person get elected? People get a job. How did that person get a job? That person's not very smart. Like, you know it on an individual level, but as a whole, we're fickle and we get easily fooled. All the time in the news, you hear things like people aren't getting flu shots because of the 10 million people that got them. One person got some weird sickness, and now there's thousands others that are scared because of the one person out of a million. All the time, things like this happen. Today I'm going to try to persuade you that global warming is one of these things. I'm going to try to do this using some scientific facts, some personal stories, and I guess mostly it is scientific facts or just occurrences on the planet. So, first off, our planet is roughly, I mean, no one was alive then, but it's 4.5 billion years old. And our climate, we had an ice age, and then it melted. Thousands and thousands and millions of years before anyone was even really alive. There were our caveman ancestors exhaling CO2, but that was it. You know, there was no big rigs letting up smog into the air. There was nothing like that. And the planet cooled enough for there to be an ice age, and it warmed up enough to melt it. So my issue with that is that they've only been monitoring temperatures accurately for roughly the past 100 years. And 100 years out of 4.5 billion is not very many. And to give you a perspective of that, I looked at it in terms of the average age of human life and making judgments on a person based on just barely meeting them. So the average age in America of a man, the average lifespan, is 75.65 years for an American man. Now, using the same ratio, 100 out of 4.5 billion, to a 75.6-year-old man is like making a judgment on a man when he dies at that age for meeting him for 52.8 seconds. So, whatever, if there's a comedian and he dies, and you say, he wasn't funny, I saw him one time, he was sleeping, he's just lazy. Well, how long do you see him? 52.8 seconds. That's the equivalent of how long we've been monitoring the Earth's temperatures. So, another thing, on top of Mount Everest, there's seashells. On the top of the highest point in the planet, there's seashells on top of Mount Everest. Why? Because millions of years ago, it was underwater. Our planet's been changing since the beginning, 4.5 billion years ago. So, but global warming has become kind of widely accepted. We all know it. We've all heard of An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore and the climate crisis and all these things. And I'm not saying that there's not any scientific fact behind or scientific knowledge behind it. It is scientists saying this is what's happening. But there's other things too. There's scientists saying, hey, that's not what this means. So an example is in Al Gore's book, there's a picture of Mount Kilimanjaro, and it says, look at the difference in snowfall from 1970, some year in the early 70s, to 2006, I think. And there's way less snowfall in 2006. The reason the planet's warming. Well, if you look at the foreground of the picture, there's trees, and it's clearly, by looking at the trees, different seasons. There should be different amounts of snowfall in December from March, or November from April. So, it's not like that. It's not just that straightforward. You need to look at every aspect. Another issue is that global warming research has kind of become a little bit of a conflict of interest. This is kind of a touchy subject because it's people's jobs, but where is global research coming from? It's coming from college professors at universities whose job it is to research the sea temperature things. That's their job. If they say, hey guys, we found out this is all natural, well, you're fired, we don't need your job anymore, they're out of a job. And so their research is just naturally going to be a little biased and jeopardized. They want to find something wrong. They need to. Another thing, just another scientific fact, is there's other planets and moons where the temperatures are changing all the time, and it's not because there's 30,000 people a day driving on the 405 sending smog into the air, causing greenhouse gas emissions to flood and do all the stuff we've all heard on the news. It's because there's natural occurrences. On one of Jupiter's moons, Io, spelled I-O, they noticed from the satellite images, you know, you can picture the heat sensor stuff you see on the cool Discovery Channel networks, and they see, why is this moon warming so much? It keeps warming and it goes in cycles. Why was it? There was a chain of volcanic eruptions, and the eruptions caused the planet to warm. It's going to happen. Climate just changes naturally. Another argument, and this is kind of, people are saying, how come, actually this is very local. In the Inland Empire region, in the past couple decades, temperatures have been accurately recorded as rising fairly significant amounts. How is the temperature rising so much in that small of an area? This is out in like the Palmdales and Valencias, and the reason they're now discovering is development. Heat maintains itself at a higher temperature better on asphalt and concrete and on rooftops and all these things than it does on natural grass or dirt. So if you put a temperature in the middle of Valencia out by Six Flags 40 years ago, the average temperature is going to be up now because it's not just the natural land, it's houses. It's not really that our emissions are causing it. There's a house there absorbing heat, causing the local temperature right there to be a little higher. Patrick J. Michaels and Robert Balling, they're from the Cato Institute, which is kind of a big kind of political thing, in Massachusetts, wrote a book called The Climate of Extremes. And their entire book is not saying the climate isn't changing or that what we're doing can't possibly end up changing the planet slightly, but it's saying that the most of our climate's changing is natural. It's all happening because of things we can't control. There was an ice age before, who's to say there won't be one ahead? So, in conclusion, while I doubt that the average temperature of our planet has increased slightly over the past 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever the current science is, but it's always changing. So whatever the newest thing is saying, global warming crisis, climate change crisis, whatever the newest one's saying, I'm not doubting that the temperature isn't changing slightly. I'm just saying that I don't personally think, and I hope I can persuade, or I hope I've persuaded you to think, that it's not because of the car that you're driving down the road. It's because it's going to happen. It's not a hoax. There's back to it, but there is another side, and I don't think that that side is always justified in the news. Thank you for listening, and I hope I have persuaded you to at least look at both sides of the global warming climate change issue. Thank you.
So Katie, what did you think?
I thought his attention grabber was good. It caught my attention. He gave a good preview of what he's going to talk about. And during the speech, he had good eye contact. You really didn't look at your notes that much. And you knew what you were talking about. And it was like mostly clear when you were going to change to a new topic. And I thought the conclusion was good. It summed it up, and you gave your opinion. Some things you could work on would be, you kind of stumbled sometimes on words, maybe because you were nervous, I don't know. And then your citations, I heard some, but I don't think you had any quotes. I'm not sure. I don't know.
All right.